Hello again and welcome back. In this video, we are going to examine the role that transition phrases or transition words play in determining the meaning in a passage. Transitions are related to the concept of the main idea. This is so because they play a vital role in suggesting to the reader the direction in which the writer's argument is going to progress. So let's begin our detailed study of transitions. Transitions are important because they 1. Give a smooth logical structure to the passage. 2. They are a significant clue to the direction in which the argument of the author is going to develop, thus helping us anticipate or see ahead the point about to be made by the writer. Thirdly, they help us vary our speed of reading. For instance, if the transition word suggests that the point that is about to come is in line with the nature of argument that is already being pursued, then you don't have to slow down your pace of reading, as going through it is not going to need extra effort. However, if the transition word suggests that an unexpected argument is going to be introduced, it makes sense to slow down a little in your reading to see the implication of that argument for the overall sense of the passage. Now, some of the words that indicate transitions of different kinds are, to give examples, words like, for example, for instance, such as specifically. To show cause and effect, words like therefore, hence, thus, as a result, resulting in, so, consequently. To show contrast, words like nevertheless, however, but, on the other hand, in contrast, on the contrary, conversely, at the same time, still, although, even though, despite, in spite of. To show similarity, we use words like likewise, similarly, just as, equally. To concede, words although, even though, of course, granted, while. To elaborate, words like in addition, additionally, moreover, also, furthermore. To emphasize, more importantly, more important, most importantly, chiefly, indeed, in fact, primarily, no doubt. To restate, again, in other words, in effect, that is, in short. To indicate time, last, at last, eventually, before, after, afterwards, finally, during, then, when, as. To indicate place, to the right, to the left, in the background, in the foreground, in the distance. To conclude, thus, finally, in the end. Now, in the given passage, let us see how transition words help in developing the logic of the writer's argument. The first line is where the author declares his aim, which is to present a particular idea of justice. The second sentence begins by the author using the transition phrase in order to, thus showing clearly that the logic of the first sentence is going to be continued in the second one and is in fact elaborated upon in clearer terms. So when you come across a transition phrase like in order to, you know that the author is now going to expand upon what he or she has stated in the previous or the preceding part. Now this is exactly what happens in the passage, as the author, in order to help us understand his conception of justice, goes on to give us the terms in which we are not required to think. Now the third sentence also starts with a transition word, rather, which is often used to introduce an idea that is different or opposite in nature to the idea that has been stated previously. So notice that in the preceding part, the author has stated the terms in which we are not to think. By using the word rather, he gestures or hints that he is going to give us the ideas which are going to be in contrast to what has been previously stated. Therefore, he goes on to tell us now the terms in which we are required to think. The next transitional word that occurs in the paragraph a little later on is thus, which demonstrates the cause-effect relationship between the preceding parts and the part that is to follow, or is also used for illustration or summation. Here in this passage, by the use of thus in the paragraph, it is evident that the writer intends to complete a part of his argument. That is, he wants to summarize what he has said so far and then carry it forward to additional dimensions. That is, he wants to show the relation between what has happened and what is to follow, the cause and effect relation here. So he says, given all of the above, or because of all of the above, which is a summary of his argument, we should imagine those who engage in social cooperation choose together in one joint act the principles which are to assign basic rights and duties and to determine the division of social benefits. In order to make his point clearer, the author uses an analogy. And the reader can see that he is going to make a point of comparison or an analogy between two things because of the transition word here, just as. Just as is a transition phrase used to show similarity between two situations or people, etc. The analogy that is drawn here is between individuals and societies, where the author says, just as each person must decide by rational reflection what constitute his good, that is, the system of ends which it is rational for him to pursue, so a group of persons must decide once and for all what is to count among them as just and unjust. This brings us to the conclusion of the use of transition words and phrases in this paragraph. I also hope that the flowchart drawn here has helped you understand the relationship between the various ideas better. Organizational styles also help us in identifying the nature of the passage under study as well. However, we shall be looking at this aspect a little later on in the lecture, as structure is only one of the several things that help us in identifying the nature of the passage. For the sake of proper structure to these video lessons, I will stop here for now, as this concludes our lessons on transitions. In the next video, we shall do some questions on the theory that we have learned so far.